This podcast is brought to you by Fox Fury Lighting Solutions. Check them out at foxfury.com and dingusfire.com. Check out the Vanguard safety wear at dingusfire.com. Let's crank up that federal Q. Roll it! You're listening to Views from the Jumpseat podcast. Bunker up. Buckle in. It's time for the show to begin. One thing remains constant with fire service is that we start day one in the jump seat. So if you're a chief officer, welcome back. If you're the day one probationary, welcome aboard. It's time for Jump Seat Radio. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jump Seat Radio, the podcast that needs a new location. I don't know what it is about finding these gentlemen to come on the podcast that comes from like the tropical locations. But our guest, I'm a huge fan. Number one, first and foremost, is both of us have a really good friend in common, and I'll introduce you. We'll talk about that person shortly. But man, I tell you, this guy does some solid work. He likes the bendy style fire trucks. He's got a surfboard in the background. But Eric Wheaton from Vent Inner Search. What's up, buddy? And thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. So,
all right,
it's nice and warm down here, you know, bombing 75 degrees.
All right, Garrett, tell the Jump Seat Nation who you are, where you're from, and how good are you at surfing? Because that board looks awesome.
Yeah, too bad I didn't do this in my garage because I got about 12 boards hanging up in there. So I describe it like golfing. You know, people have multiple golf clubs for different type of, you know, hit distances and hits. Same thing with surfing. You know, different type of surfboards for conditions. But yeah, my name's Eric Wheaton. I'm a lieutenant with the Winter Park Fire Department. We're a small city just at the north end of downtown Orlando. Like Ryan said, I like bendy trucks. Also the current owner and editor of VenterSearch.com and the LLC part of the company that travels around doing some training events. And yeah. So
Eric, today I told you before we came on the microphone that I never have a script. I always fly off the cuff. But I want to talk about truck work and the Vent Inner Search stuff that you've done with our good buddy Jim Walsh through the years. And I must say that you've taken Jim's evolution and really launched it into the stratosphere. I mean, I follow along with what you do with the containers. I follow along with you with the cans. But let's first start all this stuff off. But how'd you become a truck company lieutenant?
Yeah. I guess I got kind of lucky, like a lot of things in people's lives, you know, timing was well. Yeah, actually, my second generation Winter Park fireman, and my father's a big engine guy, and actually all through fire school, you know, he was basically drilling me for the engine, and you know, I was on board with that, you know, and I had some friends going through fire school. They're like, "Oh, the truck's where it's at." I was like, "No, I'm going to be an engine guy," and
right.
You know, I did my probationary year off tailboard on an engine, and you know, I was at a dual house, so I had the truck there, and I kind of was getting mentored by the truck lieutenant in my first year. He kind of took me under his wing, and you know, I started taking a lot of classes, things like that. We have to have tech rescue stuff.
Right.
So I started doing all the tech rescue stuff, and at the time, he had, you know, some older guys on the truck and that were wanting to, you know, go to slower houses and things. So timing worked out. Yeah, I got all my classes, all my certifications, and within a year, I was, you know, riding tailboard on at that time was a tower truck, and yeah, it's been kind of promoted through the ranks through there. I, you know, spent I think about 9 years as a fireman on it, and then I got promoted engineer, drove an engine for about 6-7 months, and then got right back to my shift, my truck. Did that, drove that for a couple years, and then yeah, now I got promoted lieutenant, and I'm blessed to get to stay right on the same rig. So it's been a good run for me.
So you had performance punishment for 6 months going back to the dark side, but now that you're back to the righteous way of doing things.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, you know, I'm kind of known to be a big truck guy, but you know, anytime I was taking classes and things like that, I would, you know, going to FDIC early on. I would always take engine classes to don't lose. I didn't want to lose the skill and the knowledge of that, and I think it's very important, and it really helps me being a better truck lieutenant, because, I can expect what the engine's going to do. I understand the work. And I mean, I love dragging hose too. I'm not going to lie. So I just like real grunt work.
Secret out.
But yeah, I have a different passion for the truck, and that's why I kind of wanted my career to go that way. I like that work. I like that, for us, if, probably get into talking about it, but being the only ladder in the city, we really have to go through that mental process of priority. It's almost like, we're really well staffed and we're right on top of each other for a 9 square mile city. I mean, amount of staffing and everything we have is amazing, but it still feels like we're an understaffed department when you're on the truck, because we're the only truck there. So I really like that mental process of breaking the tasks that need to be completed down. And, with, like I said, with the only truck there, you really get to practice that a lot. So I enjoy it.
That's what really kind of draws me to you, Eric, is there's no fluff in your stuff, dude. I'm telling you. I mean, there's not. And it's like, I know that you've gotten to be a lead instructor at the FDIC, and I watch the stuff you do at the local college. How did you, I mean, is that how you kind of steered yourself towards that no fluff? You better know your stuff when you show up. You're not really understaffed, but maybe adequately staffed. But I mean, is that how you kind of went that direction?
Yeah. Well, I really started in fire school, and where I had passion for teaching. And I noticed myself during, say, the ladder drill.
Right.
We always had to have the two students next to the ladder in case it were to tumble over. We'll actually use that time to see what other guys in the class were making, where they were making their mistakes, and how the instructor was interacting with it. So I kind of focused on that, where everyone else was, looking at birds flying by and stuff like that. I was trying to pay attention to those things. And I had a lot of good mentors in fire school that actually are friends now. And unfortunately, some have since passed, but they, I call them my best friends now. But anyway, so I really enjoyed watching them instruct, and I'm like, man, this is something I'd want to do. And when I was younger, I was like, I want to go back and teach fire school. But then, as I got through the career, I realized that they just stand there and check boxes, and not really, at least in the state of Florida, I'm pretty sure it's common out elsewhere, but you're not really teaching somebody what they're going to do in real life, So I, once I realized that, I kind of wanted to focus more on, true fireground skills. I started doing a little bit of the tech rescue stuff, but really my passion was fireground skills. And, I got involved with our local fire academy. Jim Walsh has obviously been huge both
of us.
Throw me to the wood. Yeah. Get me out of my comfort zone. And, one thing led to another. And now, being able to be a part of the FDIC instructor cadre out there has been amazing. So, I think what it was, to kind of tie it back to the question, I know he's getting a little off track there.
That's all right.
Where you say, specifically my department, adequately staffed, but again, we're on our own. And how that affected, the no fluff thing is basically I started really training on my own out in the firehouse because I was afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
Like I was scared to death. Like I wanted to be the best firefighter I could be because I was so scared to let myself down, to let my peers down, to let, the public down. And I don't know, that drive has always carried me to continue to be better. And then now it's kind of transitioned more of a, mentorship role where I like to pass that on to others. And people don't realize our department is such, we have zero turnover. I mean, I think the last guy to leave our department was 13 years ago. And
wow.
It was the city of Orlando. We have very, very good department. And so what happens is we go through these huge generational gaps, right? We'll be really old department. And then what we're in right now, a super young department. So when I came on, the next youngest guy to me, happened to be my engine lieutenant at the time, was like 11 years older than me. So I really didn't have someone in my, I started when I was 21. I didn't have anybody my age kind of, to take me under the wing. There are a lot of old school guys and, one thing we could definitely improve on in my department is having a true senior firefighter. So, with that, I had to find the knowledge and everything on my own. It was really hard to kind of I really wanted somebody to mentor me. And that's culture's changed since, but I think we have a lot of good people now that take guys under the wing, new firefighters under the wing of our department. But I just think, kind of being out on my own and going out back and, I would do air consumptions, and I would do air consumption mainly because they were fun and it was training.
Right.
I didn't really realize I was getting exercise from it. And so, and then, go traveling to conferences and getting mentors outside my little community definitely bred me to what I'm involved with today. So
do you see those skills improving? I mean, I think it's folks like you and I'm going to kind of group you into that whole Florida group. I think you and Grant and a couple of other folks down there are really just cranking out the content. Do you think that I disagree with the younger generation? I think they're just as eager as we are. I just think that you hit the nail on the head. I just don't think we're mentoring them enough. Yeah. I mean, is that something you can see the evolution of on the national level or in the local level?
Yeah, definitely local level and national as well. It's across the board. You talk to people from all over the country and you're hearing them complain about things. And it's like, yeah, I have the same complaints. It's just depending on the size department, you have more or less,
right,
percentage wise. And like I said, I like the millennial thing. Okay, I know everyone talks about it, and it's just hilarious to me where I'll have a guy that's say 50 years old, and he'll complain about millennials all on his phone, but yet I look over at nighttime when we're all watching a movie on the recliner and the guy's playing like Candy Crush or something. It's like, and then I always say to people, like, the generation that complains, and I'm a millennial by like I'm in there by like 1 or 2 years, so unfortunately I get thrown into that. I consider myself more of a transitional generation, because half of my friends when I was growing up, were into technology and computers, and I didn't have one till I was like in the 11th grade.
Right.
Didn't have a cell phone at all through high school. I was outside building forts and riding my bike and stuff.
Surfing.
So, anyways, but I always tell the generation that complains about my generation is like, you're the generation that raised us. You're the ones who raised us. Why? I mean, then, is that a failure on your part? And kind of goes back to the fire services. Mentor me. I came in at 21 years old,
right,
and I was I had my father, but be honest, my dad's not like a big buff or anything. He's super proud of me, and I love my dad, but I'm not going to call him and talk tactics to him and stuff. That just wasn't my dad. So I didn't really have anybody to go to, and I had to kind of be on my own for a while, and then of course, once I figured out, I can go to these conferences and be with the 1%ers. And I mean, my first year at FDIC was just mind blown, and I made it a promise I'll go back every year since. So, and I have, but I think that has slowly changed now,
right?
Because some of the younger guys that came on when I did, they're really into it and they're motivated. And now when we get, younger people below us, we
game
grab
on
them and say, hey, look, you don't have to go through the way I did. Let me show you this. All right. If you have any questions, come to me. And anytime we do a new hire class, I'm involved with the training, but I like to drive the group. We have, big passenger van that we take our new hires to training locations. And the chiefs have me drive them because that's my time. I have their talk.
Right.
And we talk about all kinds of things from, from training, attitude, all the way up to, hey, in fire school, they told you you're going to burn in a building collapse or die in a building collapse is how you're most likely going to die in the fire service. Let me tell you, you're going to die in the fire service, right? Health issues or suicide or something like that.
Right.
And they don't realize that. And nope. I just say, you got to look out for each other, so it's not just mentorship on here's how you swing a axe instead of Halligan. It's, hey man, you guys are getting hired together. You have that relationship. Look out for each other. This is what it's really like here.
Right.
Okay? So, mentorship across everything. Like,
boop, boop, boop. Let's pull this ladder truck over for a quick shout out to our awesome sponsors. The Fox Fury Discovery is my favorite helmet light. It puts out an awesome beam at 200 plus lumens of a flood for your helmet. Check them out over at foxfury.com/jumpseat. And our second sponsor, Dingus Fire, carriers of the Vanguard safety wear MK1, made for work. Make sure to visit both of our sponsors that keeps this content coming for free to you, the Jumpseat Nation. Let's jump back in and talk about ladder stuff.
So that's fantastic, Eric. And I know that you do it at such a high level. I mean, dude, listen, your gym motivation, your family motivation. I mean, from the outside looking in, it's like, I want to be Eric Wheaton. I mean, you live in Florida, you got awesome 2 new kids now, which we'll talk about. And it just seems like you've got everything going for you. But I really want to speak even more what you've got going for you is, what are some of the takeaways you see when you teach at your local college in FDIC that like our key listeners are those young jump seat riding firefighters? What are some of those key lessons that you can hammer home about being an efficient truck company firefighter specifically?
Okay. Obviously, and this is a cliche answer, but definitely you got to keep training.
Right.
I mean, those people are at these conferences, mostly on their own dime, their own time, and especially my local academy. And you just got to keep up that positive attitude, keep working, keep learning, and people need to get outside their little bubble, right? They're, Florida specifically, there's a lot of people in this little Florida bubble, and they have no idea what it's like outside, out specifically Central Florida.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, this is one little micro fraction of the fire service, and you guys will get out and you learn so much from other people. And you know what? You take what you like. Sometimes I go and I take a class and I'm like, hey, I respect the instructor for being out there giving his content, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work for me. I'm not going to bash him or anything. But
right.
And sometimes it's like, wow, I never thought about that. I never thought about it this way. And I just these guys need to keep going to these conferences and get outside their little bubble. And specifically truck work, it's, again, for me, it's a lot of truck work is that mental process. So, you go to these classes and you're learning the skill, the actual skill. It's really hard to teach somebody the mental practice of decision making.
Ooh.
And that decision making comes with mentoring or getting mentored from people. And, sometimes depending on what department you got to work for, it takes a little bit longer than others, but you got to get experience, right? And I always said you can definitely you can help
supplement. I use supplement
experience. Thank you.
Yeah.
Help supplement experience with training with people who have done it.
Right.
That's because people would, when I was young and I was taking all these classes, and I'd come back and I'd show them, hey, look how Mike Champo showed me how to force this door. Oh, what do you know about forcing a door? Well, Mike Champo knows something about forcing a door. He showed me, I'm showing you. I'm just the messenger, right?
Right.
So, I just,
I think something really set you out, Eric, and I'm fanboying here because I'm a huge fan. I mean, I really appreciate your friendship more than anything. When I send you my truck pics, I sent you it sounds really weird to say out loud, but I sent you a truck pic the other day where we almost beat the first in truck. That was fantastic. That was like my VES moment. But I think what really draws me to you is your realism in training. I mean, I don't know if you remember this or not, but you posted a video of your instructor cadre at FDIC that you were all set up and ready for the students, but then your instructor cadre was racing to do the VES. And I was like, okay, done. Your respect level to me just went through the roof. But how do you keep enforcing that realism? And I think that speaks to your decision-making as well.
Yeah. So the realism of the training, basically when I sit down and kind of design a class or a curriculum for a hot class, I really try to think about, because I've taken so many classes and been mentored by so many instructors, and I really reflect back and be like, okay, this was really fun and I learned a lot, and then this, was kind of lame and it wasn't for me. So I really put a lot of thought process in the hot classes and want to make them fun and educational.
Right.
And with that, I also have to walk the walk. So, I constantly keep up with my skills through training, education, mentorship, all that stuff. And it helps me put a better class together, in my opinion. I think because I've, been a student for this long, and I will continue for the rest of my career. And I really self-reflect a lot on classes that we put on and everything. And I take the reviews seriously when people fill out the evaluations and things. I take them seriously, and if they want to see things change, and but really, I let my imagination go and make sure that they're learning along the way as well as having that fun.
I tell you something that I've seen the evolution of Eric, and I know that I'm seeing him like a stalker, but I'm really not, is how much is your fitness played into that? Because, dude, you've gotten some seriousness. You've gotten serious about fitness. And I mean, I'm very, yeah. Do you see that evolution? I'm getting there. I promise. I've talked to Jim about this. I promise I will never be able to keep up with you. But have you been able to see that evolution on the fireground because of your fitness?
Big time. So, I started when I was 21. Like, I could eat McDonald's all day long and not get off the couch for a week, and I'd be able to perform fine. But, it came to a point where I noticed, specifically during those air consumptions, I'd be able to do 2 cylinders, no big deal. I would barely be winded. And then it got to a point where I would suck a cylinder down. And I'd be like, okay, definitely didn't feel like it was when I was 21 years old. And really what tripped me into the physical fitness was one, just because of the hot subjects in the fire service right now. I should say 2 things really tripped me into it.
Right.
Just seeing some of the health issues that our people are going through, and it's locally and nationally. Obviously, we have a lot of people in our area that's going through cancers and heart diseases and things like that, strokes. And it actually was a picture I had on the beach with my daughter, who's probably about 2 years old at the time. And I'm dragging my longboard surfboard, and she's right next to me holding my hand. I'm taking her out to go for a surf, and my wife takes this picture.
Right.
And it was like, for me, I felt like my body wasn't in the proper shape. And I really sat there and was like, for my family first. It was for my family first. And we'll get to how this translates to the job. I was like, I want to be healthy for my family. And it just happened to be that one picture. My body composition for me personally wasn't where I was at. That, now thinking back to, okay, when I'm doing these training evolutions and air consumptions, I'm not 100% what I was. And so I really was like, I want to get this going. And my wife, thankfully, is a health nut, like as far as dieting and exercise, but specifically dieting. She's really, really knowledgeable at that stuff. She cooks amazing. We spend a lot of time prepping food into the kitchen, but it definitely is good for me. So, now that I've been exercising, people not CrossFit a lot, but I'm a big CrossFitter, and it's transitioned perfectly into the fire service. If I had to pick one, I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but I think CrossFit is very, very similar to what I feel when I'm on a fire ground, especially on that only do truck company, right?
Right.
Not the first do truck company, not the second. I'm the only.
I love that.
So when we have to do multiple cylinders during overhaul,
right,
that feeling I feel is what I feel like when I'm in my CrossFit gym, or if I'm in my gym in my garage. And now that I push myself in the gym mentally and physically, I know the places I can push when I'm on the fire ground. And not only do I know those things, but I also I'm physically moving better, because a lot of their methodology is about movement and things. So when I lift something, if I'm pulling ceiling, I'm in better proper posture during these things. I'm lifting things better. You're getting stronger, which obviously stronger. I think you're safer that way. A lot of people, I'll be deadlifting at work, and they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to see you when you're older in a back brace." And it's like, well, it's safer to be out here pulling 225 pounds off the ground with proper technique than it is sitting in a recliner. I promise your back is weaker than mine. And then when we go pick up the patient at 2 a.m. and dead weight, I'm prepared for that.
Right.
You're not. So
it has to be rubbing off. It has to be rubbing off with your crew.
Oh, big time. So we had the normal Globo gym type stuff in our gym, cable pulleys and,
right.
Globo Smith gym machines and things like that. And, we started getting just big tires and a log to chop. And now it's gone into, squat racks and bumper plates and sandbags and jump boxes and kettlebells and all this stuff. Now everybody exercise outside behind the firehouse instead of up in the AC in middle of Florida. It's kind of crazy, sled pushes, all these things. And we'll have shifts that we have I have them stationed with 11 people, and we'll have all 11 of us out there working out. And when I first started, like I said, I was on my own.
Right.
I was doing air consumptions by myself. Maybe one or two guys would jump in, but now it's really good to see. Really good to see. So.
It's good to watch. I mean, I find myself, I can't get my folks motivated yet. I'm not giving up. I mean, to watch your evolution and to watch it's got to be paying dividends, Eric. And I know this is something that I really appreciate about the mediums that you and I have. We have followers. You've got Vent Inner Search. We've got the social media. You've got to be getting inundated with the direct messages and inspirational people saying, "Hey, listen, Eric, you're changing my life."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really do appreciate every single comment. Like I'm sure you do as well. And I do my hardest to reply back to some. And, I hope I'm influencing people because, I'm trying to do what wasn't there for me or just the first few years in the fire service. I really want to spread that, just like everybody else, you get made fun of at the firehouse, but
that's all right.
How many times those guys have made fun of me, but then the same people have pulled me aside and, or sent me a text or a phone call and say, "Hey man, I really appreciate it. I know you bust your chops a lot, but I really appreciate the motivation to get up into the gym. I really appreciate the motivation to go force our door prop in the apparatus bay," So I know we're making an impact and hopefully it's all positive and, I enjoy doing it. So.
All right, Eric, I try to keep us about 30 minutes. I know you and I would never keep it that way. You and I never got a chance to talk about why the bendy truck's the best. I don't know if you recognized it or not, but I'm rocking my No Hose Nation t-shirt just for you today. I was like,
so, I like it.
So where can people find, I know that you're keeping the tradition alive of Vent Inner Search, which I must add is the longest running internet publication fire service outside the major brands in our industry.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I can't claim that 100%, but I think so. Definitely outside the magazines and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Jim would always joke that, in internet dog years, it's a long time. I mean, just yesterday, somebody from Canada is like, "Hey, I've been a long time follower since I've, it was the first site I found when I got into the fire service,
Right.
So. To find us, you could definitely VentInnerSearch.com. I mean, there's 13 years of content. So we have a search feature there. So, you want to find how to do a prop, how to, force a door, building construction questions, just go to that search bar, type in any keyword, and it's going to pop up with any article that was either, written by us or submitted by a follower. And with pictures and things like that. So,
some wicked pictures, wicked ideas.
Yeah, so there's some stuff, and it's kind of cool to go back because then you go back and you're like, oh yeah, we probably wouldn't do that today, but hey, back then it was cool. So find us there. Social media, Instagram and Facebook would be the best. I know we do have a Twitter account, but I don't honestly have to log in. So I'm not a big Twitter guy. I know you are, and I probably should get on it, but it's a little. Two social media is overwhelming for me. So,
right.
But yeah, those two. You can hit us up on any of that stuff.
We can't get off the podcast without mentioning our good buddy. I know you probably check on him quite often. How's Jim?
Yeah. Actually, I just had about an hour phone conversation with him yesterday on the way home from work, and he's doing good. We actually talked about he's going to the gym now. He's going to like a Planet Fitness right now, just to kind of get some of his strength back. He was really happy with his progression with his arm and his leg, and he's actually, once he feels comfortable, he wants to actually join a CrossFit gym to kind of take his fitness to the next level. And he's going to be at the Orlando Fire Conference. What's that, next weekend? So he's lecturing, I believe, twice. He's going to be lecturing, so he'll be there. If anybody's listening, is going to be there.
And for you listeners that are listening on podcasts, we're talking about the OG Jim Walsh, who suffered a major medical, I guess he had a stroke, right? That's how.
Yeah. Hemorrhagic stroke.
And he's kind of been, I know he's been a huge mentor for you, and you have no idea how much that guy's influenced me. I mean, I could almost tear up talking about in my 6 o'clock conversation. Hey, Ryan, I'm going to work. Blah, 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 blah. But I mean, it's huge to have that resource there. So Jim, I know you're going to be listening. We're always thinking about you, buddy. And you're a new dad, dude.
Yeah. So that's crazy. You know, I have a 4-year-old daughter and now a 2-month-old son, and, you know, it's relearning how to, you know, change a diaper. We're not relearn, but, you know, get used to it, being up every few hours at night. But I'm excited, and, you know, hopefully he'll enjoy the outdoors like his sister, and going to get him on the surfboard, get him swimming and all that as soon as possible. I enjoy being a dad. It's probably my favorite thing. Definitely.
I know that social media is the highlight reel, but your highlight reel is top of my feed, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I just, you know, I do that from my family too, so they can see, you know, the grandkids and everything. And I just enjoy, it's like hanging out with my best friends, you know?
Yeah. And being on the water right there is what I'm most jealous of. I mean, you got a canal right behind your house with the boat and the surfboards. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your friendship. I really appreciate bouncing ideas back and forth. Being a new, I do ride on a Quint. It's not quite a truck company. So, and you'll be teaching hot again this year at FDIC. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The residential primary search making the grab with Grant Swalby and the rest of us, and we'll be out there and I believe it's our 3rd year. So very good class. You know, searching VS search, primary search, and engine company based search. To give you a quick little plug there.
Well, buddy, thank you for coming on. I'll have my podcast stuff, and I'm bringing cameras along to FDIC this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Right. So we always run into each other at the weirdest places, whether that's the breweries or on the street. So you've got an open invitation all the time to come back on Jumpseat Radio. Please keep sending the Florida water pics with the fish and wildlife and the surfing, dude. It's definitely awesome.
Thank you.
All right, that's it, everyone. Let's beep back the tiller truck up. We'd like to thank Eric for coming on to Jumpseat Radio today. We sure did enjoy all of the content over at VentEnterSearch.com. Headed back out on the road soon. We're headed up to Erie, Pennsylvania. From Erie, Pennsylvania, we're up to Triton, New Hampshire. From Triton, New Hampshire, we're headed over to Burlington, Vermont. Make sure that if you're interested in hosting a hoarding class, to reach out at jumpseatviews@icloud.com, and don't let the word out, but the new website is up and starting to be built. Check out ryanpennington.us. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at JumpseatViews. Find us over on Instagram at JumpseatViews. Hit that subscribe button on youtube.com/Ryan Pennington. And please, please, please like, share, subscribe. If you found value in any of the podcast, make sure to tag it over on all your social media platforms. And remember, you are part of the Jumpseat Nation. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.